I'd been meaning to watch this movie for probably more than 10 years, and I finally got around to it. And you know what? I had a riotous good time doing so. I enjoyed this movie, and I have some thoughts. So, today's motion picture discussion: monsters. Let's talk about it. Gareth Edwards has been probably one of my sleeper favorite filmmakers since his 2014 Godzilla movie, which comes after the film I'm going to be discussing today, Monsters, which is his first feature-length film. I find it amazing that he would make a film like Monsters and then immediately get whatever his next movie is Godzilla. It's kind of wild. But having seen Monsters, I understand why someone thought he was a good fit for this new take on the King of Monsters. Because I think a lot of the hallmarks of Gareth Edwards' movies are found readily available in Monsters, this his first movie, where it's clear that all the spectacle stuff, the action stuff, is takes a backseat to the more intimate and personal. And I love that. I actually love that about all of his movies. I love that about this movie. So Monsters is a movie about a photojournalist who finds himself in Mexico. He's trying to take pictures of extraterrestrial life, which has found itself on Earth following the crash of a NASA probe 6 years earlier. So somehow NASA had sent some probe out there out of space, and there was a malfunction. The probe crashed to Earth, and that resulted in extraterrestrial life existing on Earth. So Scoot McNairy's character finds himself in Mexico is to do two things. One, he's trying to take photographs of these alien creatures alive. He's had several of the pictures of the aliens dead, but it could be worth a pretty penny to catch some of them alive. But his other mission is to make sure his boss's daughter, played by Whitney Able, is alive. Somehow she's in Mexico following some kind of attack, some sort of traumatic event. And Scoot McNairy has to then find her and then escort her across this zone called the infected zone, which no one travels through because there's like this concern there's aliens there and people don't want to get attacked. So he has to escort her across this dangerous portion of land to get back to the United States. So they have to cross the border. It's a simple goal. They got to get through the infected zone to get to the border, get home. Now, in a movie called Monsters, your clear expectation is that you're going to see the monsters. And I would argue, regardless of what people say about this movie, that you see a lot of the monsters, actually. When you see it, you'll understand what I mean by that. It's this notion of that I think about when I think of Gareth Edwards' work, which is he's one of those filmmakers that is really good at exercising restraint. You see this in the Godzilla movie. You see this in Rogue One, even in The Creator in some respects, which is a movie that I've actually enjoyed that movie. I know a lot of people probably didn't like that one as much, but I really loved The Creator. And this movie has that too, particularly when it comes to the extraterrestrial life. They're in here, right? They're here. But I think that because they're used more atmospherically, it actually adds something to the feeling of fear and uncertainty that permeates the space as our characters are trying to figure their way out of various problems that come up for them. But the focus of this movie is actually, it's not the aliens, it's the people. So Scoot McNairy and Whitney Able play two characters who meet for the first time in Mexico. And ultimately, they end up, they kind of fall for each other, but the way it's handled, it's quite beautiful. Actually, there's something about the dance that they're doing where it's clear, they're living in a time where, and in space where there's a lot of danger around them. There's concerns about whether or not they'll be able to safely make it across the border, and this is excluding your concerns about safety against the aliens. You got to deal with Mexican officials. You got to deal with people who may or may not have hostile intent, people who may be a little bit shady, who might want to rob you, you're dealing with all the things in a foreign country that you're not familiar with, on top of potential threat of death by extraterrestrials. And so I enjoyed that the movie is very grounded. The story is grounded. The relationship between these two characters is grounded. And mostly everything feels earned. And that is a testament not only to the script, which is very tight, very well written, but also the acting. I think Scoot McNairy and Whitney Abel turn in really sound performances. And not only that, but they're natural performances. They're performances that don't feel like acting. They feel like real people who met and are getting to know each other and begin flirting with each other. All that feels genuine. It doesn't feel overly contrived. And the feeling is that the actors were able to contribute something that, even if it wasn't on the page in the same way, the spirit of what's on the page is what they captured. And it feels nice. You find yourself wanting to spend more time with these characters. I did anyway, throughout the course of my viewing. I did find maybe one or two sections of how Scoot McNairy's character was moving that was bothersome, that was annoying a little bit. It was like, oh, come on, guys. He's trying to see what's up with this girl, and it's clear things aren't really necessarily going the way he wants and stuff. So it's like but again, that was real. Something about that felt authentic to what that would be in a situation like that. Even though it annoyed me, like it would annoy me in real life to see that. I really enjoyed how that was more front and center, the relationship between them, but also everyone else around them. I mentioned Mexican officials, people who were in charge of certain agencies or whatever it is, but also the families you might meet on along the journey. You might stay with a family, someone's cooking for you, whatever. There were such beautiful and natural interactions with the people who didn't feel like actors, who interacted with our main characters. Even the children. The children were just some of the most beautiful, sweet children to see, and how the actors interacted with them. It just all felt so natural. It provided such nice moments that actually makes you nervous, because you're like, oh man, this kind of stuff is really nice and sweet, and this can't last. This is going to be crazy. Something's crazy. And I think how Edwards handles it from from the writing perspective, from a directing perspective, is very good. And I immediately understand why he was a good choice for not only Godzilla, but also Rogue One, even though there were things that happened on that set that resulted in Tony Gilroy coming to take over and do some stuff. But still, I think the spirit of what Gareth Edwards was doing with that movie is the connective tissues is there. The connective tissue from Monsters to Godzilla to Rogue One, and even the creator, is all there. Like, yeah, I really dug it. The cinematography is nice, very nice. There are some really cool wide shots that display pockets of Mexico, and also the damage from battles with extraterrestrials and stuff like that. It does a good job putting you in the world of Mexico, kind of as we know it. There's pockets of it that as we recognize it to be, but also with this other like slant of Mexico that has adjusted to extraterrestrial life in the area. They've had to change how they live and change how they do things as a direct result of extraterrestrials being there. And all of that is just captured very nicely. And it really works. It amazes me. When I think about that, it amazes me that the movie was made so cheaply. This was, I understand, a low budget independent film. And yet it doesn't feel like there's something that comes up when you watch certain independent films. There is a feeling that this movie doesn't have. This feels like more like a mid-budget film, like in between independent and big budget. The feeling of it. And I think that this is also, you had good actors, even, again, main actors, but also your side actors and tertiary people. Everybody was just really good. The visuals were sound. And then also, we have to talk about the special effects, which is limited. Gareth Edwards, I remember years ago when I read about this movie, I think he also learned he did the special effects. He knew how to do he taught himself how to do special effects for this movie. which is it's wild to me that he had to think about writing this movie, shooting it, be involved in the editing, and then do the special effects and then possibly who designed the creatures. I don't know who designed the creatures, but had to deal with the special effects of that. It's just like, and for $500,000 or however much it cost to make a movie for a low amount of money and still have it be really good, it's a miracle to make the movie, first of all, to get it made, but to make it with whatever the circumstances he had working with, and have it turn out the way it did is quite remarkable. I really enjoyed this movie and highly recommend it. If you haven't seen it, do check it out because it's good. And the last thing I'll say about this movie is I almost wanted a different title for this movie, but the more I think about it, there is a kind of poetry to the fact that this movie is called Monsters. This project, I think, is another take on the question of who is the monster, the man or other creature, alien, whatever, something else that's sort of not on the surface like us. And I think that's not a new question to have been asked. You see it in Frankenstein. You've seen it in other media where there are conversations about humans dealing with the other. And this is just another take on that. But I like the fact that this movie allows all the stuff that you expect. You expect big spectacle. And I think that is there. But that's not the focus of this movie. I appreciated that. I like that. That's at the heart of it. This is about spirits, beings interacting, and how sometimes in the unknown, in the other, you can see similarities. Just because we don't look the same doesn't mean there isn't something that can be gleaned from watching Aliens or however these other things look. You can say same thing about the Queen xenomorph in Aliens, for instance. Particularly when it comes down to, Ripley versus the Queen. They are two moms, however you want to look at it, but I think they're moms, just in essence, protecting their young. And even though the Queen, she birthed a lot of xenomorphs that's jacking people up, whatever it is, that there's something about how if you break it all down, the xenomorphs are trying to survive too, just like humans. And I'm not saying that Monsters does that. It's not the same thing. What it is about really recognizing what it can be if you choose to see it. Part of it is that us looking at something that's other than human, taking the opportunity, taking the time to recognize and look for some of the similarities, so that we're not just killing each other. And I think it's not a heavy-handed message in the movie, but this is one of the takeaways I had. And I like that it wasn't so explicit, but that if you just watch it and take time to watch these other creatures do what they're doing, you can learn something. It's a beautiful film. I think it also has a layer of melancholy to it, and I think that's also what makes the movie. It's actually a more human movie than a monster movie. It just happens to deal with monsters too. And I think, again, when you see the movie, you understand what's going on. So I think that's going to do it for this review on Monsters. This is a little shorter. I got to run out. I'm going to see a couple more movies today. And so I'm getting myself ready to talk about those coming up. But if you're still here at this juncture, thank you for taking the time to watch and listen and hang out with me talking about this movie, which I loved. I loved it so much, I watched it immediately again. I watched it like 3 times, I think, I watched it once, and I'm like, this is good. And then in like a couple hours went by and I watched it again, and then I watched it again the next day. I really enjoyed this movie. So I recommend you check it out and see what you think for yourself. But in the meantime, I'm getting out of here. Have a good afternoon, and I will catch you in the next video.